I wasn't, in a sense, looking for the Kohinoor in the Return of a King. It popped out of the Persian sources most unexpectedly. I hadn't been expecting it. And Shah Shuja opens his reign by looking for the Kohinoor that's gone missing at the end of his brother's reign. And he sends out search parties because his brother has been arrested and blinded. And he managed, just before he's blinded, to hide it in his prison cell. He uses a dagger to scrape a hole in a... and so suddenly, so I used it as the opening of Return of a King. The opening page is about the Kohinoor being refound. And then, 6 years later, I was trying to put together a Jaipur program. And what you do is you do sort of Pelmanism. You play Snap. You try and find all the authors that are written on a common theme. So all the biographers in one, all the guys that have written about sex, to put in this pervert session, another one. And then...
You're never going to get anyone to come in Jaipur again.
And and then someday I realized that I, Anita, and Nabtej San had all written about the Kohinoor, and we went on stage, and none of us knew what happened to the stone beyond our own little chapter. So we were sort of sitting with bated breath, discovering the next chapter in our own books.
It was amazing. So it was, if there could be such a thing, it was a relay race through history. And what happened on that stage, and what happened to the audience watching it, was kind of electric, actually. You know, so and we were each of us. When one of us spoke, the other two were like, "Oh my God,
I didn't know that."
I didn't know that. And we were in the green room, and I think it was like this enormous light bulb just came up.
We've got to do a book.
In the middle. Why has nobody done a book? We should do a book, and that's really helpful.
And then poor Nabtej got made High Commissioner, and so he couldn't so he couldn't do it, too political. Yeah. So we ended up doing it together.
Yes. Yeah.
So what was lovely was, in a sense, milking work I'd already done. I mean, to get those chronicles, I had to go to Afghanistan. The then head of Kabul University, Ashraf Ghani, now the president, had most of them in his own study. And he gave me effectively a tutorial on my very first morning in Afghanistan in 2009 and said, these are the sources for your period, and you'll find them there. And he pointed me to a book bazaar in the old city where there was one old bookseller who collected all these ancient Afghan chronicles in Persian. And I went there, and I got about 3/4 of them in one morning.
Wow!
Which is one of the most successful morning's work I think I've ever done in my life. And I literally went back at lunchtime to where I was staying in Kabul, to the wonderful old fort that I was living in at the time, with, I suppose, 1.5 feet, with about 18 inches of solid Persian chronicle, and so I've now effectively got 2 books out of that rather than one. It's been wonderful, and it was quite dangerous getting all that stuff. Because going all around Afghanistan collecting this material, it wasn't just like you walk into the New York Public Library and you order it up. I had to go to some pretty dodgy places, Herat, Jalalabad, Kandahar, to gather this material. And it's lovely being able to find, and it had never been translated before. Afghan historians in the 1950s and 60s gathered this material, and much of it was reprinted at that point into modern Persian, modern Dari, so it's accessible if you can get your hands on it. It's in good printed editions, but it's never been translated into English.
The Kohinoor was almost like a cameo appearance in a film, you know, like special guest star Kohinoor who just runs across one scene and
or
is
Alfred
gone.
Hitchcock
quietly doing a little
pruning the bushes in the back of one of his scenes.
I paid it very little attention, except it came up a couple of times. So one was this portrait of Safia's father, the Winterhalter picture, which is when he's presented for the first time with a Kohinoor that he had to sign away as a boy. And he has to do this pantomime handing over to Queen Victoria, who won't wear it in public until she almost has his permission to do it. So it sort of appeared there, and then it appeared with the children of Dalip Singh. I got a sense of how important it was to them as well, because they also refer to Queen Victoria, everyone except Safia, who was a little fond of her godmother, as Mrs. Fagin, the receiver of stolen goods. And Bamba absolutely hated the British because of the Kohinoor. It kind of consumed her, it poisoned her. I mean, there's a
Part
lot
of,
of...
it's part of the curse, really, isn't it?
There is a slow poison that figures in the lives of the Duleep Singh, much like the slow poison that killed the Maharaja, the first Maharaja to inherit it after Ranjit Singh. So like William, I mean, the research over those years had given me the landscape of something that I didn't even know I was looking for. And I always think, I don't know about you, but it's weird with this book. You know, you have to, when you're looking for a story, you do have to do a lot of scraping at rock. But with this story, a lot like the diamond was not cut out of any rock. The Kohinoor was kind of given up by the earth through the sand. And a little way like that, I don't know if you feel like it, but it's like I feel like the story's kind of been given up.
We both saying how
that
oddly
way.
effortless it was, because so for both of us, we had the material to hand.
Yes.
But we hadn't noticed
We
all
hadn't
these
noticed
many
it, just hadn't
references.
seen it. And it was all there, twinkling in the background, and it just
Very good
was up to
analogy.
us to
It
go,
is like sieving for diamonds.
Yeah.
Theo was a dog-loving, gambling, high-living East India Company, who later went on to become a proper full-scale war criminal, known as Hanger Metcalfe in 1857. But that's the later bit of his career. And Dalhousie goes to him to research this because he liked gems. He was interested in diamonds. And he puts together what he says, quite openly, was the gossip of the Delhi bazaars. And that was his job. He was told to go out. The diamond hadn't been in Delhi for 100 years. Nadir Shah took it off in 1739. He's doing it in 1849, so 110 years gap. And so there are all sorts of stories that have grown up in the meantime. It's the Siamantaka gem. It was hidden in Muhammad Shah's turban. Muhammad Shah called it the Kohinoor. All these stories have stuck to it ever since. And one can see that document in the National Archives of India, and it's more or less what's on Wikipedia today. Today we often think that it's the British who were running into that point. Very important to remember, it was the East India Company.
Right.
It was a private limited company with shareholders, and Dalhousie worked for them. And so when he decides on his own volition to give it to Queen Victoria, without consulting the directors, they're absolutely hopping mad.
Well, they call him a blockhead.
A blockhead.
They say he's a complete blockhead for doing it. And he, in a very grown-up way, says, well, they think I'm a blockhead. They're the blockheads. But there are little charming little vignettes like that, which make a thing come alive,
Only became famous because it ended up in the Great Exhibition. It was already hugely valued by Ranjit Singh, and it was an enormously valuable gem. But it gained superstar international attention.
It became a rock star,
It became a rock
if you
star.
like. Because it had this most fabulous stage in Hyde Park, under glass, and they used the Kohinoor as an advertising. If you imagine this show, it was the greatest show on earth. It was 3 million people, a third of the population, filed through those doors and wanted to see the Kohinoor, because it was a thing on every poster. Come to the Great Exhibition, you will see the Kohinoor for the very first time. So before that, I mean, it was mentioned in diplomatic bags. The diplomats knew how important it was. Dalhousie, the man who was kind of responsible for purloining it, if you like, was very well aware of its potency and how it represented colonialism. But it became an international superstar after it took to the stage.
And after that, because the Darya-Noor went to Persia, no one ever heard of it again.
Yeah.
Because the Orlov was in Russia, the Great Mughal diamond was in Russia. No one heard of it. No Indian has ever heard of the Darya-Noor, or no one's putting suits back into the Kremlin or to the Iranian government. But this one, because it became famous, because it got not because it was bigger, not because it was more valuable, it became the famous one. It inspired novels, it inspired films, it inspired manufacturing. Used it for restaurateurs, called their names after
racehorses, boats, ships.
So it's partly the story of how it gained its celebrity, as well as the story of itself. It's a story in the creation of an icon. There's no question that most of the people who are associated with it in the period that we have come to a sticky end. Now you can interpret that how you like, but and what's interesting is it's there in Hindu myth. The Siamantaka gem in the 10th century Bhagavad Purana. Whoever comes near this gem, because it's such an object of desire, everyone gets murdered for it. And the same is true for the Kohinoor. It brings immense bad luck wherever it goes. You don't need to believe there's a curse to see the simple thing that if a person owns something hugely valuable, is thereafter the victim of envy and possibly violence in order to get it.
And whether we believe in it or not is less important than if those who now have it believe in it. That's what's really intriguing. So after Queen Victoria, the last reigning monarch to wear that, in her, even though there was this Theo Metcalfe generated story that only a woman could wear it with impunity and a man might be cursed, and this infuriated Dalhousie to his very bone marrow. No reigning monarch has worn it. It's only been the consort. So, right now it's there sitting, twinkling, and it would be really interesting to see whether Queen Camilla, if there is such a thing, will put that thing on her head. We very keenly feel that as chroniclers, if you like, it is just for us to put the facts before you. Now, what governments
we're like the lawyers presenting the case.
Free work.
We're not the judge.
It's free legal advice.
It's pointless being the judge if ultimately it's a political question.
Yeah.
So, but I hope people will use our work to take this forward.